We hope you're ready to talk some tunes. This is STEEPCAST episode 19.
Snowboard's been waxed and the chocolate is hot. STEEPCAST reporting to you live from the top of Mount Blanc. Snow missed me, making you miss me. Cause I'm hucking it up 12, I'll throw it into a misty. I'm a hunter, knuckle
There is still time to enter our snowboard knucklehuck. If you haven't yet, head to nickandmitch.com/knucklehuck to read the rules and submit your entries. They are due Sunday, May 17th.
And we're also doing a poll for your answers to our steep questions. Thanks again to Chris for this idea. You can go down below to the description or head over to our Discord for the details.
The Check My Steez 7 submissions have closed, so be looking out for the winners this weekend and for the next challenge.
And if you haven't already, you are running out of time to enjoy the perks that come along with the Legion Riders season in-game. This season is going through June, so if you haven't already, go check out the 7 season specials and the PvP playlists that are now available in multiplayer mode. But most importantly, we can't forget about the Steep World Tour. The Steep World Tour qualifiers have closed and the tournament begins today. That will run through May 20th. Qualifier riders will be receiving the DeadSec gloves and goggles sometime this week, but there's still a lot of sick DeadSec gear up for grabs. The tournament riders will be getting their hands on a jacket and a scarf and will be looking to secure the DeadSec snowboard in the finals. Best of luck to all of the riders.
Well, that was a mouthful. I don't think you're going to have enough energy to do the next thing.
Watch me. It's time for the Reddit Roundup.
Our first post is a meme coming from Excellent Initial that takes it back to the Salomon Challenge, where the teacher... No, I don't need to read the meme out. You can read it yourselves. But this is one of the longer challenges in Steep, so I find this hilarious.
We also have a picture from BENMASBEN showing off those brand new DeadSec skis. I love the design on these skis. I'm going to have to get myself a pair.
Next up, we got a picture from HAPPYXENONXE that says the run that makes the season. Snowboarder has his hands up in the air, and it does kind of remind me of that feeling of just hitting the perfect run.
And we have another picture coming from a Reddit Roundup frequent flyer, NATEHOTSHOT. This is his take on the Sistine Chapel and the creation of Sam Burger. I get what you're going for, Nate, and I appreciate it, but all I can see is Sam Burger ripping some poor sledder off the side of a mountain when they did not ask for it at all, just dragging them along for the ride. You're coming with me.
And finally, we got a cool picture from, well, they're deleted, but it is an awesome picture of our favorite trick, the backflip. And I love the hazy, foggy atmosphere here down in the valley with the bridge way up high in the air.
As always, thank you to everyone who allowed us to use their content for this week's Reddit Roundup. This week, Mitch and I are going to be discussing our favorite tunes on the mountain. So pull up the comfiest beanbag chair and dust off the good headphones. It's time for the main topic. So I think we need to lay down some ground rules before we get started here. What playlists are we talking about in the game? Is it the copyrighted music or the copyright-free music? Or is it all of it? What are we doing?
Well, we'll talk a bit about all of the music in the game, I guess. Both the Steep original soundtrack and then the licensed music that they have playing as well.
I just want to start off by saying I love that Steep has utilized the hang drum in a lot of their original songs. And if you don't know what that is, just load up the starting screen and you will hear the melody of that song being played on a hang drum. It is such a beautiful, like heavenly sound coming from that thing, and it really puts me in the mindset of the game when I hear that on the first screen.
I agree. I did some more digging on the original soundtrack. I knew it was by Zakali, but they consider themselves like a European musical collective of different musicians and sound design artists. And what I really like is the direction they go for is kind of post-rock, which is drums, bass, guitar, synth, but then also adding in kind of an orchestra, strings of brass, and the original instruments. They mentioned the hang drum, of course, so they kind of combine that post-rock into more classic rock sound.
Yeah, the mixture between eclectic and modern rock is done perfectly in all of those original pieces. I mean, you can listen to the song Mountain is Calling and see exactly what I'm talking about here. The mix between a modern 4/4 drum beat and then all of those just ethereal strings just kind of creating an atmosphere for the game.
Yeah, I think their music fits the atmosphere really well. The post-rock is kind of that floaty and almost supernatural feeling that you get behind it, so it fits well with the mountain stories in the game, where it's talking about like the mountain being a real thing and talking about the story of the mountain. One of my favorites is Aiguilla Vertigo, where it starts off again post-rock. About the 2-minute mark, the guitar starts building, and then all of a sudden it breaks down into more of a heavy rock song. And they use that one for a lot of their advertisements, so it's definitely one of my favorites.
And I'll touch on one more of my favorites from these guys before we move on to some of the licensed stuff. Drum Surf. I have never heard this song in the game itself. I've only heard it on the Spotify playlist. But, I mean, what a crazy ride. If you haven't listened to Drum Surf from the Steep playlist, please go do that right now. It is so insane. It's all over the place, but great mix of strings, drums, and electronic beats all throughout. Hey Mitch, I just realized that this kind of sounds like your jam band and what you're doing on the side. Any chance at you securing a Steep playlist, a Steep soundtrack?
Maybe by the time Steep 17 comes out. I mean, we jam out between post-rock and prog rock, so maybe we'll have to write a Steep-based song and then send it in and see what happens.
Yeah, this definitely seems like it's right up your alley.
Well, let's move over to some of the more recognizable licensed tracks.
As some of you might already know, I am the biggest sucker for a good groove. Anything Wolfpack or anything like that, if you have checked out our playlist on Spotify, all of the songs that I put in there are grooves. And Mute Math's Used To in the game is no exception. That is such a strong groove and just pulls you along. It's a slow tempo, but man, do they fill that space with everything. This is the perfect song for a cruise, and that's pretty much all that I can do in the game because, again, I'm trash. So cruising is a lot of what I do, a lot of free riding and exploring, and Used To is always playing on the playlist.
They've got some serious grooves on this playlist. I love how it's kind of like indie rock, also indie hip hop at some points too. Some of the best ones are right at the beginning, like Howl, Come On, and Here It Comes. Those got some real funky grooves and just some upbeat rock that gets you ready to go down the mountain. I listen to some of those outside of the Steep official playlist just as pump-up songs.
And then the craziest part out of all of this is they don't just stick towards that indie, eclectic rock, pop mix. They go straight into pop and hip-hop with worker bees. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but Mitch and I scream this at each other constantly.
I remember back in the early days of the game when this song would come on, we would both just say, oh man, this is going to be the hardest run yet, because it came on, we got amped up, we'd be shouting, worker bees! Busy, busy, worker bees! Man, you either love that song or love to hate that song. Another one that I like is Stretch 234 with Watch the Duck, but also Pharrell Williams, who is a huge artist who often is a writer on a lot of songs and doesn't even have his name in the artist, so it's a very interesting song to see him on. And the one that I just have to talk about is To Build a Home by the Cinematic Orchestra. It is in a very specific challenge in the game. I don't remember which one, but it's a long, I want to say 6 or 7 minute ride down one of the mountains during sunset. And it starts off with that very peaceful piano, and then it's just like a slow, ethereal type song that just slowly builds while you ride, and it almost becomes a very emotional moment. So it shows that they could go with the nice kind of rock, hip hop, we're skiing all the time style, but they could also pull in some slower songs that fit themes that they wanted to. So overall, I'd say that they did a pretty amazing job with this soundtrack.
Whoever curated this playlist, I would love to give them a hug. Well, maybe not. I would love to shake their hand. Well, I don't think we can do that either. I would love to wink at them for how good a job they did with the music for this game. I mean, they covered all corners of the globe. They covered every single genre that would work in a game like this. The last one I want to shout out is Artist of the Year's Manhunt. Just another solid groove, a real dense bass line, and it just pushes you through the mountain. I always love the integration of electronic mixes, a lot of the scratches, record scratches, and different effects that can push a song along. And when you have all of these rock and pop songs that are doing some more hardcore stuff with some acoustic instruments, and then you throw in some electronics on top of that, it completely changes the game. And it really gives this whole playlist an identity of what Steep is about. We mentioned it earlier in Steep News, but coming up here pretty soon, we're going to be sending out some questions for our viewers to answer, because we're always answering your questions. You see, we're flipping the script here. We're giving you guys a voice. But one of those questions, I think, should be, what's your favorite song from the game, or your top 2 songs from the game? Something like that, so that we can gauge which songs are hot and which songs are not, because the ones that you and I like might be hated by the rest of the community. I have no idea. This seems like something that should be addressed.
I think that would be a great idea. I'll add it to the survey right now. And speaking of hearing from you guys, we're going to head to the weekly challenge.
This week was supposed to be How Did I Get Here, but no one cares. How am I so bad at this? Every time I suggest a topic, no one cares. I see how it is. I hear you guys. You just don't care about old Nick. Just leave my ideas out behind the barn to rot away and whatever.
Well, not that all of that isn't true, but I did some digging and found that Lucas submitted an after-party photo that he also captioned, "How did I get here?" So it kind of fits the bill for you. It's not quite photoshopped to somewhere else, but it is a skier like hanging upside down over one of the rails in the X Games.
No, we already used that one. It doesn't count. Stop trying to make me feel good, Mitch and Lucas. Let me be angry.
Well, I think you also came up with the snowboard knucklehuck photos, and we already have a few submissions for that one, so we will be fully loaded next week.
Oh, it better be. I hope we have to make a whole other video just to fit them all in.
You can still submit your photos for the snowboard knucklehuck next week, and for the following week, the category will be limbo, so get ready to get low. You can submit those photos on Twitter using hashtag STEEPCAST, or of course in our Discord, which is linked down below.
Oh, and just by the way, Mitch came up with this one, so please go ahead and do it. Looking ahead to the Q&A really, it actually put a smile on my face. We have some more questions from our friend, Chris Wan.
First up, he asked, which place in the world do we want to visit before we die? And to extend it, what is on our bucket list? I can think of 3 bucket list / places in the world that I want to hit up. The first is scuba diving in the Great Barrier Reef, since I'm already a diver. The second would be skiing in the Alps. And third, I want to jump out of an airplane, but I don't want to be strapped to someone else, so I'd probably have to do a number of courses, but I want it to be just me.
Yeah, but you have to do the tandem jumps in order to be certified to do a solo jump. See, I know this because I threw myself out of a plane attached to a person a couple of years ago.
Well, I know that, so it's going to take, I think it's like 10 or 12 jumps you have to do tandem before you can do yourself. But you know what? I'm just going to add every sport that you can find in Steep to my bucket list. So I want to ski, snowboard, base jump, paraglide, speed ski, wingsuit, and maybe sled.
Would it make you feel better if I went and did the tandem jumps and then got my certification so that you could tandem with me, so you would be strapped real close to my back? I mean, and they strap you way up in there. You're touching everything.
No, I think that would be worse. But what's on your bucket list?
Well, we do have some overlap here. I have done skydiving, so that's crossed off of mine. I haven't scuba dived. That sounds like a ton of fun, and I want to do that with you someday, but that's not quite on my bucket list. What is going to the X Games. Here's that overlap one. I would love to go skiing in the Alps. And for my third, I would love to go down and swim with sharks. Not in a cage, not in a steel suit, like deep dive with the snorkel. Just go down and chill with bull sharks.
I definitely recommend you experience that. We've run across a couple sharks while scuba diving, either off of the reef wall where it drops down to like 300 feet, or in some shallower areas, but it's a weird feeling. It's like seeing the principal and the school administrator and the police officer all walking down the hall together. Like, you're not necessarily scared because you didn't do anything wrong, but you just feel like a weird respect towards it.
Yeah, much like skydiving, diving with a shark would be such a humbling experience to remind you that you aren't everything that you think you are. There are things out there that can take you down, like shark teeth and gravity if you're falling from a plane.
Second, he asked, what is our guilty pleasure? And I'm going to have to think about that a little bit. So what about you, Nick?
Guilty pleasure? I'm not really guilty about anything that makes me happy. All right, I guess I can say Fortnite. Fortnite is my guilty pleasure. I love playing video games that all of the middle schoolers are out there playing right now. I bought into the system, hook, line, and sinker, Epic Games, you got me. Fortnite is, I play it almost every single night before bed.
You know what? That didn't pop into my mind at first, but I'm going to have to agree with that too. I haven't played it for a few years, but recently you and some of our other friends have been playing it, and I ended up getting the battle pass so I could dress up like the banana. So it's been happening to me as well.
Yeah, don't knock it, man. The system works. I mean, I'd rather play the original Battle Royale. Now, I'm going to get flack because it's probably not the original, but you know what I'm saying. I would rather play Fortnite, one of the OG Battle Royales, than something like Realm Royale that's kind of just a discount Fortnite.
It was always fun too when I was a tour guide in Pittsburgh and we would get field trips in and kids would be talking about Fortnite or something, and then I'd throw in a Fortnite joke or a reference to what my rank was, and they'd all freak out and be like, you play Fortnite too? And be like, yeah buddy, guess what? Once you're in college and you're a bit older, you can play video games all the time.
So do you know any of the dances? Like if I asked you right now to do a Fortnite dance, could you do one?
Yeah, I can't remember the names of which ones, but they were whatever was in kind of the original version of the game back when I played a few years ago. Because again, when I was a tour guide and we were loading up the boat, I would do some of those dances with the narrators for fun, and all the kids would be like, they know how to dance.
I think the only one I could do on command is the L, the take the L dance, where you just grab your belt buckle, throw an L on your forehead, and bounce back and forth. All right, so there. You happy, Chris? We said it. We said that we like Fortnite. It's out there. It's on YouTube now. We can never take it back. Feel free to catch our Fortnite stream next week, Tuesday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm kidding.
Unless...
No!
And finally, he asked, if there's another version of Steep, what should Ubisoft add that everyone loves? And second, something that they don't love. Battle Royale.
Yeah, let's bring guns into Steep.
Mini snowball / snow pellet guns, of course.
Yeah, right, of course.
Something that I was talking a bit about in the Discord this weekend was something like the music festivals they've been having in Fortnite at the Party Royale. The musicians aren't always the greatest, but in general, I like the idea of having this community hub area where there's like music going on. Sometimes the DJs are shouting out the players or telling them to do certain things in the game. And it's kind of cool. It's just a big party with everyone involved. My favorite memory was Dylan Francis was DJing and Get Low was on, so everyone was like crouching around the front of the stage. And then as soon as the bass dropped, about 5 people threw crash pads down and everyone went flying up into the sky.
Based on what you just said, it would be awesome to do an event in Steep that was like a demonstration. So you get the French national ski team, it might not be them controlling their characters, but you put them up on the mountain and they do a routine or something coming down the mountain on a big hill. I've seen a ton of those at Seven Springs where we used to ride. You know, have something live in the game where the skins are the French national team, or the skins are someone like Tom Wallish, where he can come in and talk you through an event in game. You're seeing a live event on the mountain. I mean, you could even go as far as to have like 10 wingsuiters with all different colors streaking across the sky to start it off. There's so much they could do with this.
And for something that everyone wouldn't like or doesn't like, I'm going to say bring over Winterfest, baby, from Steep 1, but I think there is a way they can improve on that and actually make it fun. Maybe if it was more of a multiplayer competition, almost like a game show that was going on the mountain, I think that would work for it.
You and Winterfest, I will never understand that. The one thing that I would love for people to hate in a new version of the game would be a ski lift. Get rid of fast travel. You only have ski lifts now, and you just have to deal with it. And snowshoes. So like if you're in the powder in Japan or whatever, you need to be wearing snowshoes, or else your guy is just going to fall through the ground, and it's going to be hilarious because you won't be able to move anywhere.
Could you imagine if you fell off the chairlift, or if you got a certain amount of G-forces, you had to wait until an in-game volunteer group of ski patrol comes to you with the medic kit to fix you up?
It's just us. It's just Nick and Mitch. We're the only ones. We'll patrol the mountains, and we will be ski patrol.
Have a little snowmobile and just be like, wee woo, wee woo.
Well, I hope that was good enough for you, Chris, because I think that's all we have to give. Thank you guys for watching episode 19.
And stay tuned for episode 20 next week, where we ask you guys the tough questions and see what your responses are.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Nick or Mitch, join the discussion over on Discord, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you again to everyone who let us use their content for this week. Stay safe out there, guys. I'm Nick.
And I'm Mitch.
And we'll see yins on the slopes.